Hello, welcome to ONTIC's Connected Intelligence Podcast. I'm Fred Burton, ONTIC's Executive Director of Protective Intelligence. This podcast offers valuable insights and practical advice to help you navigate the complexities of modern corporate security shared by leaders and innovators in the field. Now, on to the discussion. Hi, I'm Fred Burton here today with Bob Hayes. Bob is the Managing Director and founder of the Security Executive Council and a recognized leader in the security industry. With more than 25 years of experience in law enforcement and corporate security, he's led influential research on what drives effective security programs. His work has shaped how organizations think about risk, leadership, and program strategy. Today, he joins us to discuss his latest research on incivility, executive targeting, and the evolving risk landscape. Bob, welcome to the ONTIC Connected Intelligence Podcast.
Thanks, Fred. I can't think of any place I'd rather be today than having a call with you.
Well, that's wonderful. Wonderful, Bob. We really are looking forward to this one. To start, can you introduce yourself a little bit for folks that may not know you and share your background and walk us through your career path to founding the Security Executive Council, which is a wonderful organization?
Well, it obviously started quite a while ago, back in the days of law enforcement, but I got my first security job back in around 1980. I've had 5, what we'd probably now say CSO positions, head of security for 5 different companies. None of which I was qualified for, which I know now. At the time, I thought I was, but I've learned so much since then. But a public utility and a private holding company and a medical center and a large international manufacturing company, and each one in different sectors, different risks, different challenges, different executives, but all of them had a huge impact on understanding the industry on a broader scale. And so 21 years ago, a little over 21 years ago, I got the chance to do research on what the security industry needed. And we talked to security leaders all over the world. And what we heard from them was pretty loud and clear. They wanted an organization that was research-based. They wanted someone to study successful leaders and programs in the industry. Really, what we all did, what I did for many years, was what I call products of personal opinion. We did what we thought was best. We had a background and an interest in criminal justice, and we read about security, and we did the best that we could. But there was no body of knowledge really that we could count on, or really even educate us. So almost every book that was written and was based on our experiences, not so much on any kind of research. They also wanted all this work done by people who had sat in the chair. And so everybody in our organization, minus our PhD researcher, has had a background like I do. We've all worked for major companies. We've all had leadership positions, and they wanted that shared as broadly as possible. And so that's what we do. We never started out to be a consulting company. In fact, I swore that we would not be. What I didn't take into account was we were learning a lot of things nobody else knew. And so we've published over 50 books of that knowledge that we've learned. We've written over 500 articles. We've shared that. Just under 70,000 people now get our newsletter every month. But people called and said, can you help us with, let's say, metrics? We wrote the first 2 books on security metrics. And so that's kind of what pushed us into the consulting business. But we only consult on things that we've researched and things that we think we can document and prove beyond a doubt that these are leading practices. So that's kind of what got us here, was that idea of the research and the practitioner knowledge that we have. We've studied over 400 companies now over the last 21 years. And we've learned an awful lot of stuff I wish I had known when I was in the chair. I could have been successful instead of mediocre.
Well, what prompted you to conduct the recent study on civility and executive targeting? And why is the issue gaining urgency right now, Bob?
An awful lot of our work's based on what we call pattern analysis. And so both myself and Kathleen Kotwicka, who's our chief knowledge strategist, we really gravitate towards pattern analysis. And we started seeing patterns. We started seeing patterns of behavior change. And some of it was reading that uh, uh, children's sports teams were having trouble finding referees and coaches because parents were treating them so bad. Seeing people misbehave in parking lots and in grocery stores, and reading about road rage and all these other things, we started to sense a real change in behavior. And so we said, well, is it just us? I was thinking maybe I was getting a little bit old and losing patience, which that was also true, unfortunately. But we started seeing patterns of behavior, and we said, well, is it real, or is it just our perception? So we started looking for other people's studies, and we actually ended up, in the total course of that research, found 39 research studies done by government, trade associations, think tanks, professional groups, and clearly it wasn't our imagination. The first ones were around the perceptions and reactions to incivility and safety. People were feeling less safe. They were uncomfortable. They were sensing what we were sensing. And so I think we found 7 or 8 different studies there that really, all by different groups, clearly pointed out that people were feeling less secure than they were. One of the big watershed moments was when the Society for Human Resource Management, SHRM, came out with their incivility study. It was really some high quality research. They were looking at incivility in the workplace. And they actually developed what they called an incivility index to measure if incivility, or this bad treatment, was growing or not. And 2 things they did. One, they documented. They studied over 1,000 companies, and actually they do this every quarter. They look at 1,000 companies, and they came up with this incivility index and the number of uncivil acts being committed in the American workplace. And they said there's about 208 million acts of incivility in the workplace every day, costing American business $2.142 billion a day in managing these uncivil acts. Blew me away. But that really got us looking into this, and then we took it to the next 2 stages of it. But that was some pretty credible and well documented metrics that kind of proved the case. So that was a big part of it. So then we moved on to the next one. We called it Beyond Incivility. So if that's the case, is there worse behavior occurring? And can we prove that? And we came up with another, I think, 7 or 8 studies. And this was uh, a lot of different things about uncivil customer behavior, people that were having trouble staffing retail and service positions because of the amount of abuse they were getting, uh, uh, discrimination and religious discrimination, lawsuits, things where there were healthcare workers being harassed in the workplace, home service people being harassed, way beyond just, an upset customer. And so we found the studies on that. So then we looked at what we called social disorder. Social disorder is the next step. And so, for example, FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, any regulated transportation, railroads, ships, buses, airlines, they have to report passenger misconduct. And so we started looking at those numbers, and shoplifting and porch piracy and cargo theft, uh, property damage, hit and runs. All of those numbers were up, and up significantly in the study period. And some of these studies were done year after year. So we had 3, 4, 5 years of history on them. And then we went to the next highest one, which is threatening behaviors and violence. And we found another 10 studies, and all of those were up. And so it was very clear that there had been a significant change. And what did that mean for the workplace? And what did it mean for security? Now, this study took us 2.5 years to get done. And originally we started looking at what was the cause. That's a deep, dark rabbit hole we decided not to go down because everybody had different opinions and we couldn't find any research on it. So we abandoned that idea. And then we started looking at, well, what can we do about it? And we got 80 pages into that and said, nobody's going to read this. There's a lot that can be done about it, but it's going to be individual choices that do it. So we backed off and just published the Incivility research, and we hope some other groups will pick up on that and start to take it to the next level as to cause and solutions. Obviously, we share a lot of the things we found with our clients of what they can do about it. But for the most part, for corporations, do you have the right code of conduct for your organization? Do you have the right policies in place? What kind of training are you giving your people? How are you dealing with customers and disputes in the workplace? So that was really the kind of the baseline response to what we found. Sorry for the long answer to a short question.
We'll get back to the conversation in just a moment. But first, I wanted to let you all know that there's an easy way to stay informed about ONTIC's upcoming events and new resources. Subscribe to our monthly newsletter to get updates sent directly to your inbox. Join the 20,000 plus security professionals who are already receiving these insights and sign up today. The link to subscribe is in the episode description. Bob, are today's threats to executives fundamentally different? Or are we seeing an escalation of patterns that have always existed?
Well, that was the second report, the executive targeting report. And to be clear, we did not start this. This was started by one of our clients who who you're aware of, and they had done this study on executive targeting because of their executive profiles that they had. And they did it for a number of years, year after year, and they partnered with other high net worth company security people. And it was done using open source information, so really news publications and publicly reported incidents. I don't think the actual targeting mechanisms or acts has changed a lot. They've shifted in category volumes. There's been a shift. Cyber's much more popular. Some of the motives have shifted. I don't think there's anything brand new on the horizon, but I think there's been some real trending that's significantly different from when it started. This company had done this report for a number of years. They stopped in after their 2023 report. And then for 2 years, they didn't do it, primarily just workload. They couldn't keep doing it. It's a lot of work to do this report. And we've been involved with them for a lot of years. And they asked us if we would be interested in taking over their research and work. And so we did. We did it through our laboratory at Mercyhurst University. We have a private sector intelligence innovation lab. And we took this project on, and they acted as advisors to Mercyhurst to help us do it. And so we took the 24 and 25 data and updated it and compared it to 23. And so that's what the targeting report's based on.
Yeah, they wonderful work, and certainly the efforts there that Mercyhurst and you spearhead have provided some very good tactical data for the industry, and I want to thank you for sharing that report with me, Bob. You've been around this business for a long time. What are organizations most often getting wrong when they assess risk to their leadership teams?
And this is based over a lot of them. And look, Fred, I'm not the EP guy that you were. I don't have the background in it and that sort of thing. But from an organizational risk assessment and program development strategy based on that, there are some things that I think are there. I think uh, it's not all necessarily violence or malicious intent created, but when you look at just the statistics, the research, the two highest probabilities of executive harm are going to be on medical problems that are unaddressed and transportation accidents. And yet we tend to focus on the malicious intent of others more than the statistical reality of handling medical or transportation incidents. So I think that's a missed probability that you do need to rely on the research and know where your highest risk is. Um, the other one I would call refined risks. What the data shows is that things like product or sector risk, the Thompson shooting was a product or sector risk that appeared. We'd seen the same thing in animal rights activists going after companies where animal experimentation was required by the government. That was a product or sector risk. Proximity or collateral risk. There were a number of executives trapped in the hotel that Thompson was shot outside of. It became a crime scene. People weren't sure if they were coming into the hotel after other executives, the executives at these events. So I think product and collateral risk or proximity and collateral risk picked up. I think the other one is positional risk. I think people really realize now that you are at risk just based on certain positions that you have. And so I don't think they're missed, they just weren't as well understood as they probably are becoming now. So those would be, I think, the things I'd probably highlight.
Yeah, that's very well said. And I really like the fact you emphasize the accidents and medical emergencies. I do think that our industry is so fixated on the other kinds of scenarios, and it's one of the basics that can really, really uh, dramatically affect how you operate and so forth. Bob, looking ahead, if you had a look out over the horizon, what do you expect to worsen or change over the next few years when it comes to executive risk and workplace civility based on this research, this exhaustive research that you guys have done?
I just don't see anything trending that's going to slow or even delay this continued decline in incivility. I just don't see anything happening there, and partially because we don't know what the cause is. So from that standpoint, I don't think we're at the bottom yet. In the executive targeting report, there were a couple numbers that really shocked me. One was the intentional DART injuries intentionally caused in the workplace that were serious enough to cause days off and time away from work. 52,000 plus in 2022. Now, we keep track of workplace violence and homicides. That's a horrible scorekeeper. 600 in a year is a lot of homicides. But 52,000 intentional workplaces in a year, workplace injuries, is incredible. So I think we've got to watch those numbers. The other one that I think bothered me the most is that so the what we call the catalyst of why these crimes were committed, these attacks against executives, shifted from criminal gain, criminal activity, to activist activity. That activists are now resorting to this extreme violence for their cause, and extreme violence against individuals and their family members, actually, and other workers in the company, is pretty frightening. I mean, it's one thing to protest and exercise your rights and make your voice heard, but that it's resulting in pretty extreme attacks on individuals really worries me. And I don't think we're at the bottom of that trend yet either. I think with the numbers that we saw, the lowest number in the, I think it was 16 or 17 categories we had, the lowest number was up 150%. And some of them were up as much as 450%. There's no sign of that dropping. Now, we'll see what happens in 26, but I think it tells us we're in for a pretty long defensive move against this.
Yeah, those metrics don't bode well. And I appreciate greatly the work that you did in putting this together and your fine folks at Mercyhurst. Now, Bob, as we close out our discussion here, what does the term or phrase connected intelligence mean to you?
Well, again, this is kind of your specialty area more than mine, but I've hung around a lot of smart people, and certainly I've learned a lot even working with Mercyhurst. But in the corporate, intelligence kind of had a bad reputation early on. It took a while for corporate America to see the value of it. And so, I think 10 years ago, it was more, you were more inclined to hear that, quit trying to play FBI or CIA here in the private sector. We don't do that. And what it really is, it's looking at all the information that's available. But in the private sector, for them, what I think is similar to the public sector, but it's different, is that it's got to be actionable and valued by the people you give it to. You don't do intelligence for intelligence sake. You don't do intelligence for security's sake. You're trying to uh, uh, look at all available information and find out what it means for that company at that time period, and identify the courses of action or options that they can take to address that. And a lot of times I think I've seen an awful lot of work that is like CNN light. It's a news reporting thing. It's not intelligence analysis. It's not courses of action. And the biggest mistake I see is that it's not specifically geared to the company, the industry, the product, the people that they represent. And so for me, the connected intelligence is getting the right information in the right format with the right courses of action to the right people at the right time.
Very well said. And Bob, as we close out here today, I want to thank you not only for your friendship, your mentorship, what you have meant to this industry over the past few decades that you and I have been a part of. So thank you so much for being on the OnTick Connected Intelligence podcast today.
Fred, it's an honor to be with you anytime, and thank you for all you've done. It's been a hell of a journey for both of us, and can't think of anybody I'd rather make it with than you.
You're very kind, my friend. Thanks again.
Take care.
Thanks for listening in. To find more episodes, visit us at ontic.co/podcasts. Don't forget to rate and subscribe on your streaming platform of choice. Know someone who would be a great podcast guest? Or have questions you'd like us to answer? Email us at podcast@ontic.co. This episode was produced by AJ McKeon. And I'm Fred Burton. Thanks for listening.